This is Resonance 104.4 FM. Flipping marvellous. How you doing? We're also on bohemianbritain.com. I'm Nick Hennegan, and welcome to another slice of Literary London. Where we talk about literature in London, and in this case, once again, we talk about Wales. What? Wales, I hear you cry? Yes, don't cry. It is time to talk about Wales, mainly because, of course, of one specific and particular writer. I'm talking about Dylan Malaise Thomas. I hope I've said that right. Anyway, yeah, Dylan Thomas, of course, the Welsh wizard. Every year this year, and in fact you'll know if you're a regular listener, on the 14th of May we celebrate Dylan Thomas Day. It celebrates the date, it's not actually his birthday's in October, and it celebrates the day that Under Milkwood was first ever performed. Someone did say rather cynically that perhaps it's because it's the start of the tourist season rather than October, but I know not about that. I've been involved in organising things in the past, and I thought the least we could do today is to put together a Dylan Thomas half hour. There's some gorgeous bits and bobs of stuff around which I'm going to play you. Dylan Thomas, of course, well, actually, I say born in 1914. The year before that, in 1913, on December the 8th, one Caitlin McNamara was born in Hammersmith, London, near where I sit now. Look at that. See? Look out there. You can see, if you're listening in stereo, you'll be able to see the River Thames, as one American said to me the other day. The River Thames, yes, in Hammersmith. That's where I am now. Caitlin McNamara. Try again. Caitlin McNamara was born in Hammersmith in London. And she's important because she became Mrs. Dylan Thomas. You may know I wrote and occasionally present the London Literary Pub Crawl, which goes out every week, and sometimes more, depending on when people book. Of course, we had a bit of a rough time during lockdown, but we're back, I'm glad to say. And the London Literary Pub Crawl looks at, literary pubs. We go around Soho and Fitzrovia. It's not too far. We probably walk about half a mile, actually. But there are numerous pubs there. And we start in the Wheatsheaf on Rathbone Place, just north of Oxford Street. And the Wheatsheaf is the very pub where Dylan Thomas and Caitlin McNamara met in 1936. It was love at first sight, although she came in with Augustus John, the painter, who was also known for, how should we say, kind of a bohemian lifestyle. I think it's fair to say he slept with whoever he fancied. And it's a family show. I can't go any further than that. But if you come on the London Literary Pub Crawl, you'll get a good flavour of what he was like. And Dylan and Caitlin met in the pub, and it was love at first sight. He had his head on a lap on the first night. And they even went around the corner and stopped in a hotel called the Eiffel Tower, which is now called the House of Ho Restaurant. I'm just hanging that out there and leaving it for you. So Dylan Thomas, then a year later, born in 1914 at 5 Cadomkin Drive, Uplands in Swansea. His father, DJ, David John Thomas, was senior English master at Swansea Grammar School. The families of both DJ and his wife Florence came from Carmarthenshire, and they were fluent Welsh speakers. However, DJ and Florence decided not to teach Dylan or his older sister Nancy to speak Welsh, which was sort of convention at the time. Sounds really retrograde now, doesn't it? And I'm always in awe when I'm in Wales of people who can speak Welsh. I suppose I'm in awe of anyone that's got more than one language. I obviously blame the education system. We did a little bit of French, but I basically learned English and foul. So I'm all right at foul language as well. Yeah. So that was the start for Dylan Thomas. I think rather than me waffle on about it, I'll just play some of his work. There's some beautiful stuff. I'm pleased to say that I actually put on a presentation of Under Milkwood a little while ago. And we actually did it in the Wheatsheaf pub as well, which, as I say, was where Dylan met his wife, Caitlin. And one of the kind of celebrity guests who turned up, and I was on the door at the time, because you know what pub theatre's like, was a rather special lady who also has a radio show on Radio 6, I think it is. And her name is Cerys Matthews. And Cerys Matthews came to see Under Milkwood at my production of it. In fact, there was no room. Her and her husband and a daughter arrived. We had to stick them behind the bar on high chairs. but I think she had quite a nice time. And I love this. So we're going to play a little bit of music that Cerys Matthews came up with. She's brought out a complete album on Dylan Thomas called A Child's Christmas. And this will kick off with a thing called Years and Years Ago, featuring Catherine Finch. And then a bit of Dylan Thomas himself talking about, well, you'll get the feel of it. So here we go. Let's celebrate Dylan Thomas Day on Resonance FM and on BohemianBritain.com.
Years and years and years ago, when I was a boy, when there were wolves in Wales, and birds the colour of red flannel petticoats whisked past the harp-shaped hills, when we sang and wallowed all night and day in caves that smelt like Sunday afternoons in damp front farmhouse parlours, and we chased with the jawbones of deacons the English and the bears. Before the motor car, before the wheel, before the Duchess-faced horse, when we rode the daft and happy hills bareback, it snowed and it snowed. But here a small boy says, "It snowed last year too. I made a snowman, and my brother knocked it down, and I knocked my brother down, and then we had tea." But that was not the same snow, I say. Our snow was not only shaken from whitewash buckets down the sky, it came shoaling out of the ground and swam and drifted out to the arms and hands and bodies of the trees. Snow grew overnight on the roofs of the houses like a pure and grandfather moss, minutely white ivied the walls and settled on the postman opening the gate. Like a dumb, numb thunderstorm of white torn Christmas cards. Were the postmen then too? With sprinkling eyes and wind-cherried noses, on spread, frozen feet, they crunched up to the doors and mittened on them manfully. But all that the children could hear was a ringing of bells. "You mean that the postman went rat-a-tat-tat and the doors rang?" "I mean that the bells that the children could hear were inside them. I only hear thunder sometimes, never bells. There were church bells too. Inside them? No, No, in the bat, black, snow-white belfries, tugged by bishops and storks. And they rang their tidings over the bandaged town, over the frozen foam of the powder and ice cream hills, over the crackling sea. It seemed that all the churches boomed for joy under my window, and the weathercocks crew for Christmas on our fence. Get back to the postmen. They were just ordinary postmen, fond of walking and dogs and Christmas and the snow. They knocked on the doors with blue knuckles. Ours has got a black knocker. And then they stood on the white welcome mat in the little drifted porches and huffed and puffed, making ghosts with their breath, and jogged from foot to foot like small boys wanted to go out. And then the presents after the Christmas box. And the cold postman, with a rose on his button nose, tingled down the tea tray slithered run of the chilly glinting hill. He went in his ice-bound boots like a man on fishmonger slabs. He wagged his bag like a frozen camel's hump, dizzily turned the corner on one foot, and by God, he was gone.
The bows glided down, and the coast, blackened with birds, took a last look at his threshing hair and whale-blue eye. The trodden town rang its cobbles for luck. Then goodbye to the fisherman boat with its anchor free and fast as a bird hooking over the sea, high and dry by the top of the mast, whispered the affectionate sand and the bulwarks of the dazzled quay. For my sake sail and never look back, said the looking land. Sails drank the wind, and white as milk he sped into the drinking dark. The sun shipwrecked west on a pearl, and the moon swam out of its hulk. Funnels and masts went by in a whirl. Goodbye to the man on the sea-legged deck, to the gold gut that sings on his reel, to the bait that stalked out of the sack. For we saw him throw to the swift flood a girl alive with his hooks through her lips. All the fishes were rayed in blood, said the dwindling ships. Goodbye to chimneys and funnels, old wives that spin in the smoke. He was blind to the eyes of candles in the praying windows of waves, but heard his bait buck in the wake and tussle in a shoal of loves. Now cast down your rod, for the whole of the sea is hilly with whales. She longs among horses and angels, the rainbow fish bend in her joys. Floated the lost cathedral chimes of the rocked boys. Where the anchor rode like a gull, miles over the moonstruck boat, a squall of birds bellowed and fell, a cloud blew the rain from its throat. He saw the storm smoke out to kill, with fuming bows and ram of ice, fire on starlight rake Jesu's stream. And nothing shone on the water's face but the oil and bubble of the moon. Plunging and piercing in his course, the lured fish under the foam witnessed with a kiss. Whales in the wake like capes and alps quaked the sick sea and snouted deep. Deep the great bushed bait with raining lips slipped the fins of those humpbacked tons and fled their love in a weaving dip. Oh, Jericho was falling in their lungs. She nipped and dived in the nick of love, spun on a spout like a long-legged ball, till every beast blared down in a swerve, till every turtle crushed from his shell, till every bone in the scuttled grave rose and crowed and fell. Good luck to the hen on the rod, there is thunder under its thumbs. Gold gut is a lightning thread, his fiery reel sings off its flames. The whirled boat in the burn of his blood is crying from nets to knives. Oh, the sheer-water birds and their boat-sized brood, oh, the bulls of Biscay and their calves, are making under the green-laid veil the long-legged, beautiful bait their wives. Break the black news and paint on a sail huge weddings in the waves. Over the wakeward flashing spray, over the gardens of the floor, clash out the mounting dolphin's day. My mast is a bell spire. Strike and smooth, for my decks are drums. Sing through the water-spoken prow, the octopus walking into her limbs, the polar eagle with his tread of snow. From salt-lipped beak to the kick of the stern, sing how the seal has kissed her dead. The long-laid minute's bride drifts on, old in her cruel bed. Over the graveyard in the water, mountains and galleries beneath, nightingale and hyena rejoicing for their drifting death, sing and howl through sand and anemone, valley and Sahara in a shell. Oh, all the wanting flesh his enemy, thrown to the sea in the shell of a girl, is old as water and plain as an eel. Always goodbye to the long-legged bread scattered in the paths of his heels, for the salty birds fluttered and fed, and the tall grains foamed in their bills. Always goodbye to the fires of the face, for the crab-backed dead on the seabed rose and scuttled over her eyes. The blind, clawed stare is cold as sleet. The tempter under the eyelid, who shows to the selves asleep mast-high moon-white women naked, walking in wishes and lovely for shame, is dumb and gone with his flame of brides. Susanna's drowned in the bearded stream, and no one stirs at Sheba's side but the hungry kings of the tides. Sin, who had a woman's shape, sleep still silence blows on a cloud, and all the lifted waters walk and leap. Lucifer, that bird's dropping out of the sides of the north, has melted away and is always lost in her vaulted breath. Venus lies starstruck in her wound, and the sensual ruins make seasons over the liquid world, white springs in the dark. Always goodbye, cry the voices through the shell. Goodbye always, for the flesh is cast, and the fisherman winds his reel with no more desire than a ghost. Always good luck, praised the fin in the feather bird after dark, and the laughing fish, as the sails drank up the hail of thunder, and the long-tailed lightning lit his catch. The boat swims into the 6-year weather. A wind throws a shadow and it freezes fast. See what the gold gut drags from under, mountains and galleries to the crest. See what clings to hair and skull as the boat skims on with drinking wings. The statues of great rain stand still, and the flakes fall like hills. Sing and strike his heavy haul, toppling up the boatside in a snow of light. His decks are drenched with miracles. Oh, miracle of fishes, the long dead bite. Out of the urn, the size of a man, out of the room, the weight of his trouble, out of the house that holds a town in the continent of a fossil, one by one in dust and shawl, dry as echoes and insect-faced, his fathers cling to the hand of the girl, and the dead hand leads the past, leads them as children and as heir onto the blindly tossing tops. The centuries throw back their hair, and the old men sing from newborn lips, time is bearing another son. Kill time, she turns in her pain. The oak is felled in the acorn, and the hawk in the egg kills the wren. He who blew the great fire in and died on a hiss of flames, or walked on the earth in the evening, counting the denials of the grains, clings to her drifting hair and climbs. And he who taught their lips to sing weeps like the risen sun among the liquid choirs of his tribes. The rod bends low, divining land, and through the sundered water crawls a garden holding to her hand, with birds and animals, with men and women and waterfalls, trees cool and dry in the whirlpool of ships. And stunned and still on the green laid vale, sand with legends in its virgin laps, and prophets loud on the burned dunes. Insects and valleys hold her thighs hard, times and places grip her breastbone. She is breaking with seasons and clouds. Round her trailed wrist fresh water weaves, with moving fish and rounded stones. Up and down the greater waves a separate river breathes and runs. Strike and sing his catch of fields, for the surge is sown with barley. The cattle graze on the covered foam. The hills have footed the waves away, with wild sea fillies and soaking bridles, with salty colts and gales in their limbs. All the horses of his hall of miracles gallop through the arched green farms, trot and gallop with gulls upon them and thunderbolts in their manes. O Rome and Sodom, tomorrow and London, the country tide is cobbled with towns, and steeples pierce the cloud on her shoulder, and the streets that the fisherman combed when his long-legged flesh was a wind on fire and his loin was a hunting flame, coil from the thoroughfares of her hair, and terribly lead him home alive, lead her prodigal home to his terror, the furious ox-killing house of love. Down, 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 under the ground, under the floating villages, turns the moon-chained and water-wound metropolis of fishes. There is nothing left of the sea but its sound. Under the earth the loud sea walks. In deathbeds of orchards the boat dies down, and the bait is drowned among hayricks. Land, 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 nothing remains of the pacing famous sea but its speech, and into its talkative 7 tombs the anchor dives through the floors of a church. Goodbye, good luck, struck the sun and the moon to the fisherman lost on the land. He stands alone at the door of his home, with his long-legged heart in his hand.
Every morning when I wake, dear Lord, a little prayer I make. Oh, please do keep thy lovely eye on all poor creatures born to die. And every evening at sundown I ask a blessing on the town, for whether we last the night or no, I'm sure is always touch and go. We are not holy birds, So let us see another day. Bless us all this night, I pray. And to the sun we all will bow and say goodbye. But just for now, amen.
Ah, there's lovely, isn't it? Eh? Yes, I do like that. That was Cerys Matthews, of course, and the Reverend Eli Jenkins' prayer from Under Milkwood. And before that, you heard Dylan Thomas himself with the Ballad of the Long-Legged Bates. And some of his poetry is a little bit, you have to kind of give it good ear, but I quite like that one. And particularly, I've been to Newquay in West Wales, where he allegedly, because one or two places also claim it, based Claregeb on Newquay. And if you spell Claregeb backwards, it says something else, doesn't it? Yes, it does. And I spent quite a lot of time in West Wales, fortunately, and it is a beautiful part of the world. When the sun shines, it's the most beautiful part of the world. But and Dylan Thomas, there is a Dylan Thomas trail that runs from Newquay up to Llanon, where we often hang out. A little village called Llanon. It's got 2 pubs now, by the way. Yeah, the hot news is the one on the high road's opened again on the high street. Yeah. Oh, I won't get too much into gossip now. But we've done that to celebrate Dylan Thomas Day. The 14th of May every year, Dylan Thomas Day, the Welsh poet, as I say, actually marks the date of the first performance of Under Milkwood, rather than his birthday, which is in October. And if you want to know any more about Dylan Thomas, have a look at dylanthomas.com. There's all sorts of interesting stuff about his life, the Dylan Thomas Centre, certain learning and outreach events. And I know his son-in-law, actually, and his granddaughter. And they're lovely, lovely people. They are indeed. So, yeah, dylanthomas.com. And don't forget, if you've got anything that you think we should cover, then drop me an email. It's probably easiest, radio@mavericktheatre.co.uk. radio@mavericktheatre.co.uk. I keep mentioning I'm on Twitter. I think we've actually got Lit London Radio on Twitter, @Lit London Radio. Not really easy, is it? And my name's kind of Nick Hennegan, Hennegan. It'd be a lot easier if I was John Smith, wouldn't it? Yeah. But do get in touch, particularly if you're a London writer, or if you've got a book coming out, or you just sort of want to celebrate anything, literary in London. Or in Wales, or anywhere else for that matter. So thank you very much for your company. That's a slice of the Welsh wizard, a dibbling of Dylan Thomas, celebrating Dylan Thomas Day. I'll see you next time. Mind there you go, won't you? Hey? Nosda. Yeah, see, I've even got some of the language. Yeah, that's good night in Welsh. Yeah, Nosda. You impressed? Yakida. That's something to do when I'm taking a drink. All right, I'll leave you to it then. Thank you for your company. This is Literary London on bohemianbritain.com and, of course, on Resonance 104.4 FM.